Thank you all for joining us today with Governor Cuomo. What an honor for us, Governor. Before we begin, I would like to welcome some of the special guests with us today. I understand the governor will be introducing the state legislators, so I will not introduce them, but it's my pleasure to introduce George Latimer, the Westchester County Executive. Andre Rainey, the mayor of the city of Peekskill. Robert Greenstein, the supervisor, town of North Castle. Gina Marie Picinich, mayor, village of Mount Kisco. Eliza Ozer, CEO, Boys and Girls Club of Northern Westchester. All of the members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators who are here. All of our town supervisors. All of our village mayors. My colleagues and members of the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council. And all of our friends in labor. There is no greater champion for Westchester than Governor Cuomo. This governor doesn't just talk about it, he gets it done. He has taken historic action to modernize our infrastructure. He has invested in our communities and helped us grow our economy. He's delivered balanced, on-time budgets 8 years in a row. And under his watch, New York has seen consistent job growth and a diversified economy. And today, we join him to continue to fight for one of his top priorities, lowering the tax burden on middle-class families. No one has fought harder to take on high taxes and make Westchester economically competitive than Governor Cuomo, and I am proud to join Governor Cuomo in this fight. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Boy, what an excited, good-looking crowd. It is my pleasure to be here. First to Marsha Gordon, who is, as you know, been a great, great advocate for Westchester. She fights the fight, and she wins, and she's always there. Westchester couldn't have a better advocate. Let's give her a big round of applause. To Eliza Ozer and the Boys and Girls Club, thank you very much for hosting us. Thank you for having us. Let me clear up one thing before my friends in the press speculate. I happen to live right down the block, okay? I don't want them to think, oh, look at the governor. Friday afternoon, he scheduled an event right down the block from his house, and then he's going to go home. I'm going back to the office in New York City after this event, and then I will be going home. I want to thank the people of Mount Kisco. It's been about 20 years since I first moved to Mount Kisco. I raised 3 beautiful girls here. A more delightful community, a more welcoming community, a kinder community you couldn't have. You know, when you have a governor in your community, it brings a certain number of liabilities. You know, those protests are tough on everybody, clogged traffic. But I want to thank you very much for the kindness that you've shown me over these years. To County Executive George Latimer, a great friend doing a great job. Let's give him a round of applause. You still haven't done anything about that puddling in front of my house, George. It's been, yeah, you keep pointing fingers, you guys. It's a total, this is what drives people crazy about government. Yeah, State Road, see? And it goes on. We've had this conversation for the past 3 years now. But County Executive is doing a great job. I want to thank him very much. And my colleagues in the legislature who are here today, starting with the Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Pleasure to be with you. We have Senator Shelley Mayer, who's with us. Senator David Carlucci. My Assemblyman David Buchwald. Assemblyman Kevin Byrne. Assemblyman Colin Schmidt. And we have the senator whose district we are in, who is a relative newcomer to Albany, but he's a true pro and he's doing a great job, Peter Harcum, Senator Peter Harcum. Let me give you, if I can, an update on where we are in Albany, because this is an important year. In many ways, it's the most difficult year that I think the state has faced in quite some time, primarily because of the economy. It's not just about New York, it's the national economy, it's the national political situation, which if anyone in this room can figure out the national political situation, please explain it to me. But it is a difficult year, and what we do is going to be very, very important. We're about 6 weeks into the legislative session, about 1 month from the state budget. The state budget is a little deceptive in calling it a budget. It's not really just a budget. It's really the action plan for the whole year. The big initiatives that you're going to get done, you get in the budget. That's when everybody is focused. So that's coming up in a month, and we've had a good 6 weeks. We passed a lot of pieces of legislation that, frankly, a lot of people supported for a long time, bills that I supported for 7 years and just sat there year after year after year, have now become law and will make this state a better state, starting with the Women's Reproductive Health Act, which guarantees a woman's right to choose. The Child's Victim Act. We have a new Voting Rights Act. You can now actually vote in the state of New York with early voting, which is important. So we're excited about that. We passed a bill called the Red Flag Bill, which in many ways carries on New York's legacy on gun control. We passed the SAFE Act, which was the smartest gun control law in the United States of America. We did it right after the Sandy Hook shooting in Connecticut. And it has made New York safer. We're the third safest big state. And the Red Flag Bill takes it to the next level. What the Red Flag Bill says is if a teacher or a family member knows a person is in extreme emotional distress and might have a mental health condition that would make it unsuitable for them to have a firearm, they have recourse to go to a judge. Half of the school shootings, afterwards the teachers said, we knew something was wrong, but there was nothing that we can do. Now, in New York State, there's something that can be done. Teachers have a resource, and it's not giving teachers a gun to shoot. It's giving teachers the law to do justice. So congratulations to all of them. And on the agenda still are important measures, and one of the most important measures is criminal justice reform. there is a racial and economic bias in our criminal justice system. That is a fact. And we have to pass criminal justice reform, and we have to get it done this year. And I'm looking forward to that. That's long overdue. So we have passed many great laws that'll bring social progress to the state. We also have to focus on what has driven our state's progress over the past few years, which is getting the economy running and creating jobs. That is the bottom line. I like to say the economy is the engine that pulls the train. If you are not creating jobs, if you are not creating revenue, then nothing works. We want to do a lot of great things socially. You have to be able to pay for them. And to be able to pay for them, you have to have revenue. You want to have opportunity for young people to attract them here and keep them here. They have to know they have a future. And they have to know that the opportunity lies here for them, and there are jobs. And that's about getting the private sector up and running and strong, and having government work intelligently with the private sector to keep that economy going. And in our case, the proof is in the pudding. The best thing that we have done over the past 7 years, today New York State has the highest number of private sector jobs in the history of the state of New York, 8.2 million jobs. And that is working, and that's what we have to keep working. The unemployment rate, when we started in the Hudson Valley, was 7.3%. It's now down to 3.9%. So people are working. Now, how did we do it? 2 ways. First, we invested in businesses, and we invested in transportation and infrastructure. And the way we did it is differently than we did it in the past. In the old days, you would have people sit in Albany and say, well, this is what I think they need in Westchester. This is what I think they need in the Hudson Valley. How the heck would they know what is going to drive the economy in the Hudson Valley? We flipped the whole approach. And we went to the local business community, and we said, you know what? You come up with a business plan, working with academics, working with the local elected officials. You come up with a business plan on how to drive the economy in your region, and we will invest in your plan. Because every region of the state is different. There is no one-size-fits-all. You want to grow the economy in Buffalo, that's one plan. You want to grow the economy in the North Country, where they have tourism, and Whiteface Mountain, that's something else. You want to grow the economy on Long Island, where they have beaches, and they have a lot of tourism, and they have great research facilities. That's another plan. And we allowed those regions to come up with individual plans, and then we said, we will invest in your plan. So Westchester County, Hudson Valley, what did they say? We want to build Stewart Airport up because we think it can be a great economic engine if we build that airport up, and that's what we're doing. We want to attract We want to invest with a company called Regeneron, which created 1,000 jobs in the Hudson Valley, Regeneron. We want to rebuild the Woodbury Transit Hub, which has been a great success if you can get there. We have to redo that transit hub and redo those roads. We invested in PepsiCo, which is a major employer for us. Resorts World in the Hudson Valley that brought jobs to a place that hadn't seen real economic development in decades. So step one is invest with local businesses. Step two is you have to reduce taxes and keep taxes low. Now, there are going to be Republicans in the room that say, how can he say that? He's a Democrat. Democrats can count, I want you to know. Some Republicans think that genetically Democrats are incapable of counting. No, there are Democrats who can count. And this is a very competitive environment. And we have to keep our taxes low to grow our businesses because they have choices. They can leave. These businesses are no longer big factories that are cemented into the foundation. They're different. They can pick up their laptop and they can move away. They're mobile. They can move quickly. And every state is in competition with every other state for jobs. Every day, I'll get 3 or 4 phone calls from a company that says, you know what, North Carolina just called me up. Florida just called me up. Georgia just called me up. And they said, if I move my business there, they will give me X, Y, and Z. Every time we're trying to recruit a business to New York, we're competing with other states. We just went through the Amazon competition. That is nothing new. It was just louder and more public. Amazon was offering 25,000 jobs, largest economic development competition in the history of economic development competitions. You don't get 25,000 jobs. That's enough for a small city. But Amazon just put it up on the big screen and said, okay, everybody bid for our jobs. 234 states and cities bid for their jobs. And you had to put together an economic package that made your site the most attractive. Amazon did it bigger and louder, but we do it every day. And our taxes are an issue. Every conversation I have, they say, well, you know, your taxes are high, this is this, cost of doing business. Now, we have a lot of assets on the other side, but we have kept taxes not only under control, but every New Yorker pays a lower tax rate today than the day I was elected. Every New Yorker pays a lower tax rate today than the day I was elected. And the reason this is even more critical is because something else has happened. There's an intervening circumstance. When Washington passed their tax bill a year ago, all the discussion was about the tax cut for the rich and the tax cut for the corporations, which I think was terrible. But that was the whole conversation. There was a little paragraph down in the bottom of the bill that nobody paid any attention to. And it was technical and it was boring. What it said is, this tax bill ends the deductibility of state and local taxes, now called SALT. What does that mean? And everybody went right past it. What it means is an economic missile has been launched at the state of New York by Washington. That's what it means. It means that up until now, the way it has always worked is you pay your state taxes, you pay your local taxes, and then you pay your federal income tax on the difference. Under this bill, they tax the tax that you pay to the state and local government. You pay federal tax on the tax you pay. It's literally a double tax. First time since the federal income tax went into effect in 1861, signed by President Abraham Lincoln, who said the federal income tax shall be levied after state and local taxes. What did it do? It targeted primarily Democratic states. And it was a Republican president, Republican Senate, Republican House, and they did a tax bill that had the Democratic states pay more. It's wholly unfair. There are 50 states. Of the 50 states, 10 states give more money to the federal government than they receive. 40 take more than they give. 10 give, 40 take. Guess what state is the #1 giver? State of New York. We give $35 billion more to the federal government than we get back. This SALT provision increases the amount we give by $15 billion. What does it mean to me, all those big numbers? But what does it mean for a homeowner? What it means for a homeowner is this. You paid $20,000 in property taxes. You're in the high federal bracket. Your $20,000 bill just went to 26. You pay $30,000 in property taxes. You're in the 30% bracket, just went to 39. This is a problem. This is a real problem for the state of New York. Our property taxes are the highest tax in the state of New York. FDR was very sensitive on this topic. And when people said to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you know, I'm tired of the high taxes in New York, he would get very defensive. And he would say, it's not the state income tax. It's not me. It's the local property tax. Property taxes are 2.5 times what the state income tax is. And we have the highest property taxes in the United States of America. Westchester and Nassau go back and forth for number 1 and number 2 in the nation. Upstate New York, as a percentage of home value, the highest property taxes in the United States of America. So the federal government knew exactly what they were doing when they said, we're now going to tax property taxes. They knew they were talking about New York. And it is devastating. We're already feeling the pinch of it. Because if property taxes go up that high, you run the risk of taxing people right out of their homes. You can already feel it in the Westchester housing market. You can feel it in the Nassau housing market. People are starting to understand what this means, and they're starting to say, you know what, this is it. I can't afford it. And depending on your stage of life, you know, people will start to make locational decisions. We have to repeal this SALT provision. It has to be done in Washington. I'm working with Speaker Pelosi. I'm working with Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I'm working with our congressional delegation. I was just with Congressman Joe Morelli. I've spoken to Congresswoman Nita Lowey, Elliot Engel. They are all focused on this because it was wrong, it was unfair, it was political. I believe it was unconstitutional. We sued them, but it is extraordinarily dangerous for the state of New York. With that in mind, I want to make sure we reassure New Yorkers this year that we are going to be respectful and responsible when it comes to taxes. So, we have a property tax cap that is now in place that limits property tax increases to 2%. The property taxes were going up 5, 6, 7, 8% a year in some places. And literally, we were pushing people out of their homes. You had many people who their tax bill was higher than their mortgage payment. We passed a property tax cap that said your taxes can't go up more than 2%. We have had about 98% compliance with it. It has saved the state taxpayers $25 billion. It saved It reduced the tax bill in the Hudson Valley $9 billion taxpayers have saved. So it makes a real difference. And by the way, local governments, which were not crazy about the idea when we first talked about it, because it does require fiscal restraint by the local governments. I said the state government would also live with a 2% year-to-year spending cap, but it has brought down spending. It's brought it down dramatically. I want to make the tax cap permanent so homeowners know I have security. My home property taxes won't go up more than 2%. And when this SALT provision is destabilizing them, let's say we're going to make the tax cap permanent. And don't worry. I started by saying everybody's taxes are lower. I believe it's time to give the middle class an additional state income tax cut. The federal government was very good at taking care of people at the top. Rich corporations, the richest Americans got a break. The middle class paid the bill. Let's do the exact opposite in New York, and let's do a middle class tax cut, because it's the middle class that has been getting squeezed in this nation for the past 20 years. They talk about middle class anger. Middle class, over the past 20 years, you look at their wages, they have gone down steadily compared to the rise in cost of living. The salaries have done nothing to keep up with the cost of housing, the cost of college, the cost of automobiles, et cetera. So I want to propose and pass this year a middle-class tax cut up to $150,000. The current rate is 6.85. We would reduce that rate to 5.5%. Up to $300,000, the rate is 6.85%. I want to bring that down to 6% and say to the middle class, stick with us. We know that you're having a tough time, but New York is on your side, and we're cutting taxes again. So we have great social policy that we passed, and we're now going to focus on an economic agenda. We are going to fight SALT. I'm going to go all across this country. I'm going to meet with every governor. I'm going to get them all rallied for support. I'm going to work with the congressional delegation from other states. We're going to right this wrong, and we'll repeal SALT. We have to pass a permanent property tax cap to give homeowners comfort, and we have to pass a middle-class tax cut to show New Yorkers we're on their side. I believe those are essential. And I promise you this, I will not sign a budget that does not have a permanent property tax cap and a tax cut for the middle class, period. This year, it's a little different. I take great pride in saying that all of the budgets I have done have been on time. Budget's supposed to be done by April 1, and the state basically ignored it for many years, and it was like a joke, you know, at one point. But every year since I've been there, it's on time. This year is different, because this year the economy is shifting on us as we speak. We had the economic forecasters come in yesterday to talk to us about the state's forecast and the national forecast. They say 40% chance there's going to be a recession in the near future. So this is an unstable economy. And getting the budget done on time is important. Getting it done right is more important. A state budget is complicated because you do two sides of the equation. You don't just do expenses, you have to project what the income is going to be and what the economy is going to do. To do that, you have to project how the businesses in your state are going to do for the next year, because the state taxes come from a percentage of that business. So it's very complicated. And I would rather be right than be on time. Because when you're wrong, then what you have to do is come back in the middle of the year, redo a whole budget, go back to school districts and say, whoops, sorry, you're not getting X, you're really getting Y. And if we cannot pass a smart, fiscally responsible budget on time, I won't. But I guarantee you this, the budget, whenever we do it, is going to be right. And this is a difficult period for the state. We do have challenges, but one thing we have proved is you give us a challenge, we will figure it out, and we will come back stronger. And you, and to the young people who are here today, you have a beautiful monument that says that. And there is a bridge that is now a new bridge. And there was an old bridge, which was called the Tappan Zee Bridge. And the Tappan Zee Bridge, for 20 years, they talked about how the Tappan Zee Bridge had to be taken down, and it was dangerous, and it was falling. And the Tappan Zee Bridge, by the way, traumatized multiple generations and gave them fear of driving over a bridge. Do you remember those plates that used to be on the Tappan Zee Bridge? They'd have these big metal plates, and you would drive over the plate, and the whole plate would shake, and you would watch the car in front of you go over the plate, and you would see the plate would do like a dance, and then you see a little light between the plate, and then you say, that's it, I'm going down, my luck. What do? Do I take off my seatbelt? Plus, the elected officials were all saying, the bridge is dangerous. We have to build a new bridge. They said that for 20 years, except they never built a new bridge. So you drove over this dangerous bridge for 20 years. Well, why didn't they do it? Because they didn't think they could. Because it was too hard, it was too complicated, and there were going to be lawsuits, and there's opposition, and some people want a red bridge, and some people want a blue bridge, and some people want a yellow bridge, and some people want a tunnel, and some people want boats, and you don't need bridges, and we can fly. You know, it's New York, so everything is hard. And they talked, because talk is easy, so they talked about it, but they didn't do it. And we said a couple of years ago, we're actually going to do it. We're actually going to do it. People said, just like the other guys said they were going to do it. You're not going to do anything. We did it. We did it. It was hard. We did it. We did it on time. We did it on budget. It's there. Marsha Gordon, Ross Pepe, a lot of people came together, and we got it done. This is going to be a challenging year. Oh, and it's not always easy, and you run into things that are obstacles. Thinking of FDR. FDR had a beautiful, optimistic view in life, where he used to say, look, try it. Maybe it doesn't work. And then you come back and you try something else. Not to be afraid of failure. Yes, things will happen along the way, but you overcome them. We build a new bridge. The old bridge is in such bad shape that when they go to take it apart, it starts to collapse and becomes unstable. Well, whoever figured of that? So now what do? We'll figure it out. Blew up the old bridge, fell in the water, we picked it up. Things will come up, and we will have challenges, but we're New Yorkers, and we overcome them. This year is challenging, but we will overcome it, and we will be the stronger for it, and we will do it together, and I need your help to make it happen. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Pete Harcum.
Good afternoon, Mount Kisco. Let's have another round for Governor Cuomo, please. Thank you for joining us today at the Boys and Girls Club, and it's great my colleagues from the Senate and the Assembly are here. And let's give a hand to our students from the Boys and Girls Club. You know, just a quick side story. The governor was talking about the new Tappan Zee Bridge project. I had the pleasure of working for him on that, and part of my job was if we had visiting groups of engineers or dignitaries, I would take them on boat tours because you couldn't, it was not connected, so you had to get out by water. And we had a bunch of Danish engineers out, and they're very conservative by nature anyhow. And we were going under the old bridge, and you looked up, and you could see like the sunlight coming through. And their first response was, should cars be driving on that? This is New York. We're fine. But it was an amazing project, and we're very fortunate that under the governor's leadership that we have been on the move and building New York airports, bridges, tunnels, infrastructure. And that's what we talk about when we talk about economic development for this area. If you get north of Mount Kisco, we don't have sewers and we don't have municipal water. And it's interesting when you tell your colleagues from New York City that we don't have sewers. What? You don't have sewers? But they don't understand about the old septic technology. But that is really what has hampered economic development around here, because you can't get the water permits you need from the health department for restaurants or housing, which are what bring people into our shopping centers and our villages. So the governor and I spoke about that last Sunday for probably a half hour. He gets it, he understands it, and working with our colleagues, we're going to address that in the next couple of years because it's crucial. The salt issue is serious. I mean, property taxes, the governor's absolutely right. Property taxes were an issue even before we had the salt. We had the highest property taxes in the nation. It's just an antiquated system. And if you drive 5 minutes from here, you look in the woods, you see all the walls in the woods from when the farmers separated the property, and you could get taxed on the amount of wool that you produced on your property. But that was 200 years ago, and it's a regressive tax. And then when you throw the added insult of salt on top of that, it really is a challenge for our economic viability. The good news when we speak about the tax cap, under our leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins' leadership, and with David and with Shelley, we did vote for the 2% tax cap to be permanent. So we're very, very pleased to do that. We're extremely excited. I am, especially the governor announced a middle-class tax cut. I think that is so critical that we have to say to the hardworking families in this region and all throughout Westchester and the Hudson Valley that we hear you. And as he said, stick it out with us. We don't want folks heading south, drinking the fake Kool-Aid that things are suddenly going to be better just because they go south of here. And this is New York, and we will get this worked out. And one of the ways we do that is we grow our way out of it through economic development and recovery. So I'm excited that my colleagues are here in government, but certainly thank you, Governor Cuomo, for your leadership, both on the tax issue, on the economic development issue. It's nice to know that we have someone in the state who is really focused full-time, all the time, on economic development, taxes, and what the numbers are doing. The social piece is a lot of it. And in my district, again, you get north of here, many of the elected officials I deal with are Republicans. But we're able to separate out kind of the ideological issues that we deal with, and we all realize that nothing is more important than the economic development piece that we deal with and what those municipalities are dealing with on the ground. And together that we will work on all of those issues. So it's great to see a lot of my colleagues from local government here. And with that, probably someone who needs no introduction, but has been a good friend to me, a mentor to me. He's been distinguished in every public service job that he's held, from a village board, county assembly, state senate, and now it's my honor to call him the county executive. Please welcome George Latimer.
Well, Pete Hawkins has told you that I can't hold a job very well, so. It is baseball season, and since my hockey team and my basketball team haven't performed too well, following my football team's not performing too well, hope springs eternal. You just saw a solid start by the governor, a solid quality pitching start. Pete Hawkins came in for the 8th inning hold. I'm here to give you the close. It's very simple, and the governor laid it out. property tax issues, control of property taxes in a suburban environment, every one of my friends and colleagues in local governments understand this is the issue that we face every single day of every single year. The single biggest issue that we hear about, tomorrow morning in Bedford Hills, Kitley Koval and I will be sitting, coffee and conversation with the people of Bedford Hills who walks there. First issue out of the box, what are you going to do about my property taxes? Governor Cuomo has shown us a path. He's shown us a path in terms of the property tax cap. He's shown us a path that relates to a middle-class tax cut for those state income taxes. And most importantly, the governor has shown the leadership that we need on the SALT deduction overturn, which is absolutely essential for every one of us in local government. And the challenge that the governor has taken on willfully to travel this country and to make a case about the intrinsic unfairness of double taxation is a mission that he will be successful in, and he must be successful in, because without that, we are not going to achieve the things that we can. It was a mean-spirited decision, but we are forceful in our belief that the governor's leadership on this issue, and knowing that Connecticut and New Jersey and Illinois and Massachusetts face the same issues we do, and California and Minnesota, something kind of blue about all of us right now when it comes to this issue. But we're going to make this case across the country following the governor's leadership on this issue. Property tax control is essential. If we don't do that, we can't attract the people who want to come and live in our communities. They look at the beautiful homes that they're to buy, the quality school districts, the river, the Long Island Sound, the beautiful areas around the reservoirs in this area. When they see the property tax bill, they're turned away. We can't accept that. That has to turn and be changed. What we see today is a strong effort in that direction, and we have to continue. As each of us struggle to make our balanced budgets in the county government, in each of the town and city governments, we have to make that change. We do it with the leadership that the governor has provided. We do it together as a family. And I will say this, my Republican friends as well as my Democratic friends, this is our moment to unify. This is our moment to look at the problem as it exists, not ideology that competes. This is our chance to show that what we care about more than a party affiliation is the achievement for all of our residents that we need to have. That is the leadership the governor is giving us. That is our opportunity to execute that in our area. And together, as the governor has pointed out, we will succeed together. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Boys and Girls Club, to the village of Mount Kisco, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, Governor Cuomo.